to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and with Maureen Callahan by my side, we're not only talking Sussexes, but Kennedys too, with a side of Diddy. Quite a show. Maureen, actually, you're one of the first people I thought about when I saw Meghan in that red dress in LA on the carpet. Please talk to me about your initial reaction to Meghan Markle showing up at the, Children's Hospital LA Gala in that very sultry red dress.
I thought about you too, Kinsey, because this was a very odd choice. She wore it, I believe, at the USS Intrepid. It was an event for American military. And at the time, It was remarked upon how sort of inappropriate it was. She looked more like she was going to, an award ceremony in Hollywood. It's like a Golden Globes dress. It's an Oscars dress. It's not for a military event, and it's certainly really not for a children's hospital event. And as we have discussed, and it sounds superficial, but I think it goes to a larger point. The lack of a trusted stylist and a trusted tailor to make sure she is not only dressed appropriately, but that said gown or ensemble fits her properly, just sort of gives more credence to those stories about Sussex staffers fleeing en masse. And then, of course, there was the real meat on this bone, which was the great report that the Daily Mail's incredible royal reporter Richard Eden had, which was that she seemed to stay at this event for an LA Children's Hospital just for the photos. And then she made a hasty exit, which is peak Meghan Markle. I mean, what do you make of it? What do you make of that?
I had heard whispers of that, and I was afraid and I love the people that send me scoops. I absolutely love them, but I have to vet them. I can't just repeat things that somebody sends me in my inbox because I risk my credibility if I repeat something that isn't true. And I was so skeptical when I received this scoop in my inbox. I was so skeptical. I couldn't believe it. I thought, who has the audacity to show up at a children's hospital gala, squat for a couple of pictures with little kids that are ill, and then run off? I just thought that has to be just a mean-spirited rumor that was going around. But when I saw Richard Eden post it, I realized that it was unfortunately likely very true. And I was still shocked. I still could not believe it. It's appalling to me. Either way, I think she's a beautiful woman on the outside. On the inside, I don't feel the same way. But to walk out of an event without you go to those events to celebrate people that are saving children's lives. You're there to acknowledge people that are, working long hours to keep these babies alive. I can't process skipping out early.
So the issue with the red dress, the first go round with the military event, this is where like a royal courtier, a royal stylist would intercede and say, ma'am, this event is not about you. So you're not going to wear the plunging red cutout Carolina Herrera red siren red dress that is going to draw all eyes on you. You're going to dress in something a bit more appropriate. And it's the same thing with the event for the Children's Hospital in LA. That dress is a laser beam. It is meant to put the focus solely on Meghan Markle, who, not for nothing, it's been about 10, 12 days since she's been photographed with her husband, who's been making all of these other really significant public appearances. As somebody who saw that Meghan Markle had the ability to sit through a grueling, dull award ceremony in New York City because she was getting the last award of the night, 2.5 hours of a rubber chicken dinner in New York, followed by, the fake chase throughout gridlocked Manhattan. Meghan definitely has the ability to sit through a boring event. She just didn't care to because it wasn't about her. So, again, we're hitting the bottom of just when you think she can't go lower, she goes lower. It's incredible.
That's so funny that you bring that event up because I had Hertz rental car PTSD when I saw her standing in front of the Costco wholesale sign. I thought, does any, because I mean, I know people were saying like, what's the big deal about that? But I have been in situations where a publicist will be like, no, we'll put her in front of the floral wall because we don't want her in front of these random brands. She's a duchess. We don't want her to stay, it just it hands the tabloids the discount duchess headline.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in those scenarios where the publicist says, no, we're not going to stand in front of the, what is that store that's on Sunset where, the penthouse logo. You know what I mean? Like, no, they're not going to stand in front. We're going to put
Mm-hmm.
them over here so that they can't, because that doesn't fit their brand. And to me, it was just so messy. But it's almost as if she reads absolutely every single piece about herself, watches every single YouTube video about herself, because she did release a statement as to why she was there. It was important to her for us to know that she was personally invited by Children's Hospital LA's president and CEO, Paul Viviano. Um, that is bizarre to me that she wants us to know that she was personally invited and she was asked to be there. Who cares how she got there? She got her great pictures. What is in it for her to release a statement like that, making sure we know that she was invited by somebody at the top?
I think, Kinsey, to your point, because of the Hertz rental car photo op, because of the Costco misplaced photo op, her stock and her star has fallen so far that the implication she knows the rest of us are going to reach is that Meghan gate crashed for this to redound to her own benefit. So she has to put out this highly specific statement. This exact person at this exact organization issued me this exact invite. And, like her, a housewife, I've got timelines, receipts, texts, photo proof. And it reeks of desperation. It reeks of a kind of, especially in the wake of Harry's somewhat successful rebranding at the UN about a week ago. It reeks of like, hey, I matter too. I'm over here. I'm doing something of like actual value and a contribution to those who are less well off, less fortunate, and it all just feels very sloppy. I also think you're 100% right. I think she reads everything, because did you see last week's Us magazine cover, which
Oh,
was
yes.
the Sussexes feeding Us Weekly like, oh, we've lost like 19 staff members now. Here
But
are
wait,
all the
I
ways
want
in
you to
which Meghan is, yeah.
talk to my audience, because a lot of them aren't in the States. Talk to my audience about Us Weekly. Us Weekly to me is a tabloid. Harry is currently fighting the tabloids. Harry wants to take the tabloids down. And maybe I'm wrong, but talk to my audience about how you would define Us Weekly. Us Weekly is not Vanity Fair. Us Weekly is not Esquire. It's not, if I were Meghan Markle, I would have gone to Vanity Fair. I would have gone to one of these ritzy Town and Country. I would have gone to somebody that held a higher significance to me than Us Weekly. Can you describe Us Weekly magazine to the audience, and why it's a very bizarre choice for Meghan to choose to try to defend herself in that publication?
100%. So, Us Weekly in America is essentially a grocery store tabloid. You see this at the checkout point. It's around a raft of other tabloids that are down market, like Star Magazine, the National Enquirer. And I don't know how involved Harry was in this. This felt like pure Meghan fed Us Weekly all of her approved sources to say these stories, which are legion, which have existed since the time she was in Buckingham Palace before the wedding. Meghan as a bully, Meghan as a person who shed staff like nobody else, reduced grown men to tears. That she is not a bully. That she often, like, oh my God, there was this amazing detail in there, Kinsey. You will love this. That when she has a female staffer who is pregnant, she is so generous that she will give them her used baby supplies.
Well,
Or
you
if
know
they
what?
adopt a puppy, they get like a designer dog leash. Can you imagine? A design,
Oh
like,
gosh, yeah.
lest any of us doubt this woman's endless well of generosity.
Exactly. Well, one of the notes in there was that if you go over to her house, you never leave without a basket of fresh flowers or eggs or whatever. And I thought that that was incredibly interesting because that is also a piece that was mentioned in that ridiculously savage cut interview. Meghan handpicked that author, and that author just burned her and talked about how bizarre she was, how she talked like she had a bachelor producer in her head, not, helping her navigate what words to say. But she said when she left, Meghan forced a bag full, or a basket full of fresh flowers and things on her. And it's just like, you're not going to win people over by handing them your chicken eggs. Like it's just not, you got to be more than that. And then in this release about the event on Saturday, she wants us to know that she has, having visited the hospital on several occasions to meet with patients and participate in the annual Make March Matter campaign, she is now laying out every good deed she's ever done because she is still, it's eating her up that this bully narrative continues the same way that her girlfriend said in Us Weekly, well, she went to Texas after the shooting. Well, first of all, you shouldn't bring that up because I'm from Texas. Texans were livid that she jumped on a plane with a camera crew and went to that elementary school after that school shooting. They didn't want her there. They didn't want her cameras there. Thank God they didn't include any of that in the Netflix docuseries, or I think it would have been the end of them. But we don't, you can't, if you have to tell people all of the nice things you do, then you're not doing enough. You shouldn't have to tell people. We should just know you're a nice person. But it's the opposite that's coming out with people that truly engage with you.
Kinsey, that's so interesting. There's a famous American named George Steinbrenner who owned the New York Yankees, and he owned them for decades. And in New York, he was such a controversial figure because he was so angry all the time and he was always firing people. But after he died, what came out was that he did incredible acts of generosity for people that nobody knew about. And his motto throughout life was, if you do something good for someone else and more than two people know about it, you've done it for the wrong reasons. And when
Mm,
you brought up Meghan flying herself down to Uvalde, which for your audience who is not in America largely and may not recall this, the Uvalde school shooting was among the most horrific shootings that America has ever witnessed. This was a massacre in a school, which, first responders were caught on video standing in the hallway for 45 minutes while children were slaughtered. And the insertion of herself with a camera crew into this tragedy to which she had zero connection was among the most cynical and heartless enterprises I have ever seen in my life. And I think Netflix opted not to air that because that also would have been like a real black eye for Netflix that they never would have recovered from.
right.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And this whole thing about the baskets of the flowers and the eggs, that cut interview, your audience, I mean, if they haven't read it, they must, because this was written by a woman of color. Her name is Allison P. Davis. She's got this amazing vignette in there where Meghan is telling Allison that she needs to write about how nonverbal Meghan is due to the trauma she suffered from the royals. So she says, here's how I want you to describe my moaning. She's just moaning because she can't grasp for words. So, like, she's telling Allison, tell them I'm nonverbal, even though I'm verbally walking you through how I want this description to be done. And then there's this other amazing vignette where she takes little Archie out to quote unquote feed the homeless,
In
but she
Montecito.
dispatches her driver, to grab the backpacks full of like protein bars and like water instead of like just give them some cash and like interact with them yourselves. I mean, it's so let them eat cake. It's so divorced from reality. It's just one of my favorite pieces of the last like few years.
It is so funny. That is great. I am always going to associate the cut with let them eat cake now. Yeah, and also it's just the idea that there are homeless people on every corner in Montecito. Montecito is one of the most amazing parts of the world you could ever live in. Oprah Winfrey and Katy Perry and Ellen DeGeneres and all of these, Rob Lowe, all of these people are your neighbors. The idea that there are homeless people and the way that there are homeless people on Santa Monica Boulevard in Los Angeles, you just can't compare. So, okay, so you might see one homeless person a month and you have your driver hand them a backpack. It's the fact that she tries to paint all of these. I just can't deal with the martyr narrative. She's trying to compete too much with the ghost of Princess Diana, and she's got to let it go.
Yeah, I think there's no question she sees herself as Diana 2.0. But the thing about Diana, for all of the stuff that she did publicly, a lot of it was about bringing attention to causes that were considered controversial. So she was using her star power for something larger than herself. I mean, I always think about what she did with the cause of AIDS and going and kissing and hugging AIDS patients who were dying in their beds and showing the world at a time when there was this incredible paranoia about how contagious it was, that it could not be caught by hugging or kissing someone or holding their hand who is in dire suffering and close to death. That is not Meghan Markle. I mean, everything is to redound to her benefit. And to your point about Montecito, so I'm broadcasting to you right now from East Hampton, New York. It's a similar thing. There aren't homeless people out here. There just aren't. Like, you would have to really cast your net far and wide. I mean, I would, like, this will sound wild, and this is wholly my supposition and my outlier theory. I wouldn't be surprised if they were plants. I really wouldn't. Like, if she planted some actors to pretend to be homeless so she could show off her largesse. And also, to your point, one of her neighbors in Montecito is someone she would so much like to be and be accepted by, and that's Gwyneth Paltrow. And when you
Ooh, yeah.
see the distance that all of these people keep from Meghan Markle, I just think it speaks volumes.
It does, yeah, because I was looking at the idea that there were all of these, because I think the last time we talked, one of our conversations was, where is Meghan Markle? Of course, it wasn't to the where is Kate conspiracy space, but it certainly was heightening. Where is Meghan Markle? We're seeing Prince Harry everywhere. Where is Meghan Markle, other than defending herself in Us Weekly Mag, or having other people defend her through her with approved quotes through Us Weekly magazine? And to me, I was surprised that they went with this children's hospital event, because it is kind of low key. It's not necessarily, they were going to grab a couple of great pictures of Jimmy Kimmel that night, Chuck Lorre, but end of story. Meghan Markle did make it a story, so their objective was met. But Reese Witherspoon had a Hello Sunshine event over the weekend, and it was a bunch of the same women from the G6. Was it G6? G6 venture event that had happened in the Hamptons a few months ago now, back in
Mm-hmm,
August,
mm-hmm.
where News Nation reported that nobody would take pictures with Meghan Markle. To me, it was very telling that some of the women that met at that venture, entrepreneur networking event in the Hamptons, opted to collaborate this weekend. They met there, they liked each other, they're continuing to work with each other. Naomi Watts, Reese Witherspoon, Dr. Mary Claire Haver, these women are all still getting together and doing things. Meghan Markle would have loved to have been at that Hello Sunshine event on a panel talking. And that's the audience she desperately needs if she wants American Riviera Orchard to work. And she was MIA. I do believe, to your point, because Gwen was at the same thing, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, that they don't want anything to do with her.
They don't. And actually, now that you're saying that, so Gwyneth is hosting another In Goop Health Summit. I forget exactly where it is, but that's beside the point, because that is something a Meghan Markle would die to be invited to. She would die to be on a podium in discussion with other quote unquote thought leaders or cultural leaders, whatever, discussing mental health, for example, right? And these people want nothing to do with her because they see her as exactly what she is, an untrustworthy, unlikable liability. And the fact of the matter is, watching this whole like 12 to 14 days where she and Harry have not been photographed together, and they're both doing high profile events, Harry more so than she, really begs the question, like, what is going on in that marriage? And what is going on with Harry really attempting to make, I mean, I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I really do think he's trying to make his way back into the royal fold. And he knows he can't do that with her.
No, no, she is not welcome there. Well, speaking of the royal fold, Catherine's brother just released a book, Meet Ella the Dog Who Saved My Life by James Middleton. It's available now for purchase if anybody's curious. And he talks about his future wife meeting the Princess of Wales for the first time. Um, and the reason why this is newsworthy is because it's so different from the story that Meghan tells about meeting the Princess of Wales for the first time. In Meghan's version of events, she tells us that she felt rejected by Catherine because she was barefoot in a pair of jeans with holes in them and a t-shirt, and Catherine is just so formal. But in James's book, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, because obviously somebody was astute enough to point it out, but he talks about his future wife meeting Catherine for the first time. They had gone to a wedding, had a lot of fun at that wedding. So instead of trying to get home, they decided to stay at his parents' house, unaware of the fact that the Prince and Princess of Wales and their family were there. And so he wakes up. I'm sure he had one hell of a time at the wedding the night before, goes downstairs to make coffee for his girlfriend comes running down the stairs to collect her coffee in only his t-shirt. And there is Prince William, the Princess of Wales, Catherine, and their three kids, and all she's in is in a t-shirt. And James talks about how she's just like, hello, and throws her arms around everybody. And at the very end of the trip, when they're all saying goodbye to each other, Catherine wraps her arms around her brother and says, she's great. This is wildly different than the complaint we hear from Meghan Markle that Catherine rejects her because of her California boho lifestyle, barefoot in jeans. Do you know? It's like when you go to a job interview and they ask you a question like, what's your biggest weakness? And you're supposed to give an answer that subtly benefits them. Oh, I'm a perfectionist. It's like she came up with this bizarre reason for why Catherine didn't like her that would make us like her more, when in reality, I think she just might be a jerk. Do you have a reaction to that story that James tells about how his girlfriend runs down in just a t-shirt and the Princess of Wales has no issue with it?
I love that story because what also that implies is that his girlfriend, who was meeting Catherine for the first time, did not feel the need to turn right around, run back upstairs, and put on full hair and makeup, and an outfit that would cover her from neck to ankle. That was not the reception she got. And I think what that implies, and I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a deliberate anecdote. It's meant to slip the knife in sideways, is that the problem is Meghan, that William and Catherine were probably hearing things that they did not particularly like. In Spare, that anecdote about Megs being like sort of put off by or feeling rejected by this snub because she was just so casual in her bare feet, whatever. It's followed not long after by this anecdote where they're at this A-list gala and Meghan says to Catherine, I need to borrow your lip gloss. Will you let me borrow your lip gloss? Will you let me? And Catherine like noticeably sort of like shudders because it's so
Yeah.
unhygienic, but she has no choice but to give this harassing, just completely insufferable woman her tube of lip gloss. Like, no, you can keep it. You can now she's without lip gloss and she's the Princess of Wales. It's those kinds of little details, and like I think as women especially, we are so attuned to passive aggressive microaggressions. Like we know exactly what all of this stuff is meant to do. And it all just helps flesh out this portrait of Meghan as we've come to know her lo these many years, she is in effing sufferable.
All right, well, let's burn through these last few topics really quickly because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm so grateful for your time today. I thought it was
Oh
great
my
over the
God, it's so
weekend,
much
Saturday
fun.
Night Live. Thank you. They ripped into Diddy, but Prince Andrew got a name drop. It was Weekend Update. And they were talking about how Michael Che said, along with a pic of Diddy, it was reported that the US added 245,000 new jobs. Unfortunately, they were all Diddy accusers. Really, if you're not from the States, the Weekend Update, Saturday Night Live, one of the only places, one of the only spaces you could joke about something like this. He hands it over to Colin Jost, who then decides to throw Prince William, Prince Harry, and Prince Andrew in the mix, saying it was reported that Diddy once invited Prince Harry and Prince William to one of his parties, but they did not go. Although before Diddy could even finish writing the invite, Prince Andrew was there. I mean, hilarious because we know that Prince Andrew is the black sheep of the family currently. Are you seeing these stories about Diddy paying off, or some of the people that participated in Diddy's parties paying off people ahead of time so that they don't get thrown into the mix? And how accurate do you think that is? Because this is coming from a Texas lawyer who, I think it started with 50 people that he has on his roster that are suing Diddy civilly, but I think that that number might have jumped by over 100 now.
The number that's currently being reported here in the States is 12,000.
Oh my
Now,
God.
not all of those allegations, of course, are going to be legitimate. Some of them are going to be money grabs or people who aren't quite mentally there, like looking for some sort of attention. But
Yeah.
this story is continuing to mushroom here in America, as well as that report you also just cited that there are A-listers who are currently trying to pay off people to keep their names out of this, which really is, it's not going to work because the feds are actively investigating this and they have a wealth of information. They raided Diddy's homes both in LA and Miami. He was, they think, worse than Epstein, possibly. He was recording in multiple rooms in his house. He memorialized everything. He used a lot of this stuff as blackmail. We're hearing reports that A-listers were caught on camera having sex with people, whether with their consent or not. And the blanket silence, not just from the hip hop community, but the Hollywood community, the people like Ashton Kutcher, who were besties with Diddy for years and years and years, is so telling. It's the absolute opposite of when Harvey Weinstein, like the doors were finally blown off and there were no shortage of Hollywood stars saying, me too, or I wanted to say something, or he was a monster. It's Kinsey, it is radio silent here in America, which tells me there are many, many more A-listers who know that it's a matter of time before their worlds come crashing down and the feds might be knocking on their doors.
And what do you have? My audience is going to be so annoyed with this, but my obsession with this case is Justin Bieber. I feel like he's
Yeah.
unfairly being thrust in this because I think he was a kid, and my real anger, I don't know what happened, but I have read one description about a video that really does concern me, and I don't know if it's associated with him, but I was like upset after I read this one description of a video that apparently exists. But to me, why are we not angrier with Patty, his mom? When I was running with Justin Bieber in his circles, there were constant fights between him and his mom because he felt like she was milking his success, whether she was writing a book about what a great Christian she was while he was really struggling with being a young man and getting in a lot of trouble, but she's preaching this Christian route, and so he looks horrible because she's going down this route writing books and everything. Or I mean, she just milked it to the point where he felt taken advantage of when he was a young man. Why are we not angrier with Patty? Why are we not angrier with Scooter Braun? Why was nobody taking care of this guy?
Well, I think the problem is, Patty is one in just a long line of stage mothers who throw their children to the wolves, seeking vicarious validation through their children's fame, fortune, what have you. I mean, it goes back to Natalie Wood, who is reportedly we now really believe, raped by Kirk Douglas when she was 18. I think what goes on
Mhm.
with Justin, though, is that it's part of a larger institutional problem in the entertainment industry where everybody knows and everybody turns a blind eye as long as these children who are often being sexually abused by these predators who get into this industry in the first place to have access to these kids are making so much money for a network, for their agents, for the people all around them, that whatever is happening to them is considered the cost of doing business. And we don't know whether Justin was a victim, but if he is a victim of Diddy's, it's really that's his story to tell. And
Yeah.
I feel awful for whatever he may or may not be going through. Those videos that have been released, there's one where he's 15. His mother throws him to Diddy for 48 hours. What mother gives their 15-year-old son to a grown man to go party? And Diddy saying, we'll never tell what we're going to do. There's another video, Kinsey. I don't know if you've seen it, but now it's Justin 16 or 17. And Diddy is with him in a recording studio. And Diddy's saying, hey, what's going on? I can't get a hold of you. You change your number? What are you, too big to talk to me now? I'm not good enough for you. And you can see Justin, he's like stuttering and stammering. And he's like, I don't know why you don't have my number. You want my number? I'll give you my number. And it's just, it's chilling. And when you think about the number of people who had to allow this to happen, I mean, I can only hope that the feds cast their net incredibly wide because there are so many people with blood on their hands here.
Oh, amen. All right. Next time I talk to you, we have to talk about the evolution of this RFK Jr. story, because last time I talked to you, there was only one woman. Now we have a total of, as far as I know, four. So we have to get together and have just a total RFK Jr. chat about the evolution of all of the women that have come out lately saying that they were in a textual relationship with him at least. How will Cheryl Hines react? You guys will have to watch this space because that is a chat for another time. And Maureen is my go-to Kennedys expert because of her amazing book, Ask Not: The Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed. Please purchase it if you haven't already. Maureen, I love talking to you. You are my favorite human. Thank you so much for your time today. And it just, every time I talk to you, it blows by so quickly because it's just so effortless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kinsey. I feel the same way. And I can't believe we're already out of time. And I cannot wait to get to RFK Jr. next week. My prediction, outlier though it may be, is there may be other women between now and then who come
That's
forward
a
with their
deep tease.
sexual relationship. Mm-hmm.
That's what we call a deep tease in the industry. So you'll have to wait and see. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.